Carrie. Carrie, stop! Come on!
How dare you? No, really, how dare you? How is it possible that I haven't earned your trust by now? I have done everything to show you how fully committed I am to you. I have moved mountains and apartments. I have agreed to arrangements that even you yourself couldn't live up to.
Hello, lovers. Welcome back to And Just Like That, The Writer's Room, the official companion podcast of And Just Like That from Max. I'm Michael Patrick King, writer, director, and executive producer of And Just Like That, and I'm here around the writing room table today with executive producer and writer Julie Rottenberg.
Hi.
Executive producer and writer Elisa Zuritsky.
Hello.
Co-executive producer and writer Samantha Irby.
Hello.
Executive story editor and writer Lucas Froehlich.
Hey, guys.
Hey, everybody. Well, we're here today to discuss an episode called Present Tense. This is episode number 9, Present Tense, written by Julie Rottenberg and Elisa Zuritsky and directed by Anu Valya. If you have not, and I've said this a lot, if you have not seen this episode, please go and watch it now and then come back, because this one of all of them is the spoiler alert central of everything.
This one could kill you. The spoiler. It's so not to be dramatic or anything.
Okay.
It's not even a spoiler.
It's
It's a murder.
Oh, sorry. We laugh to keep from crying.
Yes, because this episode really is about
Painful.
the third breakup of Carrie and Aiden. And it is a very difficult relationship to end because it has so much amazing power in it and so much love over the years. But we knew way back in the day when we were bringing him in episode 2 that it wasn't going to be ultimately Carrie and Aiden at the end of the series.
But we had no
The end of the
idea
rainbow.
how, or back then, how or why it wouldn't work this time around.
And the reasons that it didn't work this time around were all new and very, very baked into the story season's arc this year, which was the family. Number one, that's the obvious. And the big root is his feelings about their past and her infidelity with Big. And even in season 2, we touched it because in their very first return together on Valentine's Day, he doesn't want to go in that apartment. He doesn't want to go in there because he said a lot of bad stuff happened in there. He
It's too
drew
painful.
a boundary. Oh,
Right.
that was
Right.
You know,
Right.
that
That
was
was
the
his
very
boundary.
beginning of their first date. He knew this is bad. The past is still there. She acknowledged it was still there. He acknowledged it was still there.
Well, and also her response, I think it is smart to look back on season 2 when he first returned. Her response when he says, I can't go up there is like you see her whole body change. She has such PTSD from their past that it's like, of course he can. Of course this can't be anything. And then he surprises her and says, they have hotels in New York, right? And then they fall into this relationship.
And then they sort of put that over
They
there.
put it in the
Compartmentalized.
past.
She does
completely.
remind him at some point on that stoop, but it wasn't all bad.
Right,
So there is that
right.
hope. And then what we did with season 2 is we put them in just a fairy garden of happiness, of like it all works because they're on the surface. It's all delightful until reality comes in the form of the crash of the truck with his son Wyatt and his guilt, which ended season 2 and his separation from her, and then started season 3, which is now we're at the end of season
But you know, it's funny
3 of
because
Carrie and Aiden.
even in that season 2 fantasy land that they're in, they still avoid her apartment. Like, you know, it's not just that one time. It's like as long as we don't go there, we can live in hotels, live in an Airbnb.
It's like we've been
we can
vaccinated
just
against that.
pretend,
We can get a nucleus,
you know?
by the way.
Yeah, that's right. And so she eventually She
Yeah.
does. She finds a whole new environment, a fresh start. It's all white, like a blank piece of paper if you're a writer. And she can write their life together, but immediately she's in that house herself for all of this season, except to this episode 9 and 8 when he comes to join her.
Mm-hmm.
And just a slight touch to remember what Carrie said to him in the episode before this is she's like, we don't need to know Duncan.
Mm-hmm.
We
And
don't
do
know.
not do that Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood thing.
Don't
She
do that
couldn't
Mr.
have been
Rogers' Neighborhood
clearer.
thing.
No.
Couldn't have been clearer. And
He's
then
not our friend.
Mm-hmm.
right. And then to start this episode, when she looks down and sees them.
Well, she walks home. She comes in, looked like Heidi, bright and sunny. It's like
Right,
a fairy
Jeff.
tale, and it's all great. I'm a dry cleaning. Hi, and she hears him calling her from where, Julie?
Well, she
Hell.
exactly. She goes out back. She hears him. We're out back, and you see her look down at them. And if you look at Duncan, his look could not be more like. Maybe I'm projecting what Carrie would be projecting, but he looks not happy to be there.
He looks trapped.
and
I mean, and there's Aiden smiling like Mr. Rogers. It's like Mr. Rogers and Winston Churchill, and I mean, it's
You know, it's like a jump scare or something like that. It's a horror film. It goes from this
Right.
lovely opening into like, the shock
I
of
think
that, which is just.
I really believe, just to be in Aiden's mind, to give him the benefit of the doubt, I think he believes he is so charming. I think the charm offensive, I think he was determined to break bread with this guy.
I think, hi, Pollyanna. I
Yeah,
think you,
who
I mean,
are you and what have you done with my
determined-
writing farm?
determined.
Wait,
Well,
I agree with
obviously
Julie.
he's
She
No,
didn't
I
meet
don't-
he didn't
around.
meet an old guy at Fairway Markets. This
It
is
might
like,
have-
But I think he, in order to demystify, maybe to comfort himself, to dispel whatever skepticism he has, whatever suspicion, whatever doubt.
okay, that's different than your original opening
Well-
argument, which is he's a nice guy.
Well, no. My point is he thought he could get in there, do his nice guy, all shucks thing, maybe get away with that. But of course, what he wants to do is kick the tires and see what the hell is going on. I think.
Especially when he asks, like, so you were married. It's like, that's, if you thought, like,
Right.
maybe he's just a good
He
guy,
was
that's when
l-
he's clicking into
All right, but
whatever
It's
Right.
like he's a
character.
reporter going into interview the witness.
Yeah, or he's a jealous boyfriend going
Yeah.
in to interview the
Yeah.
affair guy.
Yeah.
Sam,
Which-
what were you about to say? I cut you off.
I was agreeing with you
Yay,
that I
love when that happens.
think he really I don't think he was trying to like intimidate or scare him off or, piss on Carrie's leg, as it were. I really do think he thinks, I mean, he's like a big Labrador. He thought, like, how could he not love me?
Yeah.
Let me just meet him and talk to him. We'll be fast friends.
Yeah, I think he wanted to put his own fears to bed.
Mhm.
He wanted to just
Okay.
And get
Let's
a
give him the
close,
benefit
and
of
get
the
a
doubt.
Michael?
closer.
Well, Michael's not into
and get
this.
a
but-
closer sniff.
Look,
at
no one's a bigger
things.
Aiden apologist than me, but
Yeah.
I'm telling you right now, she said, don't go there. And he went there.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not saying it's not infuriating.
If you doubt what's
I'm
really
on
happening in
her
the scene,
side.
Julie, I suggest you look at Carrie's face.
No,
She will tell you.
Hey, I agree. It's
No, we're talking about
infuriating.
before she gets there. His
Yeah.
Oh,
intent.
okay.
I
Yeah.
think all of it's true. I think he
It is
wants
true. All of it's
he
true.
wants all the information. He's territorial.
Also, it's weird to be, like, especially if he's, like, staying there for, okay, what's it, like 2 weeks this time or whatever the 10 days?
We don't know. It's indeterminate.
It's a little bit odd when you're sharing that backyard sometimes to not know who's sharing your, like, sort of living space. Like, it is a natural inkling.
I agree now.
that-
I agree
Yes.
with Julie. He wants to see what is down there since he says we're living in the same house in the other episode, and I don't even know him, which is odd because Aiden is friendly.
But, you guys, picture anyone else is living down there. A little old lady who
Well-
Carrie's been writing with.
He would have been down there 3
Oh, I
days
think he
ago.
would
No,
have
no,
been
no,
helping with the
no,
groceries.
no,
Yeah.
would've made her
Not if
scones.
she said don't.
He'd be booed up
Don't.
with her.
Not
Don't
if she
bother
said
that
don't
little old
bother
lady."
that lady. He wouldn't be like, I just need to get to know her.
Okay.
No, he's
It's great.
He's threatened.
I mean,
he's
and-
threatened.
I just want to point out, if the writers are having this discussion months and months and months after it's filmed, I have no idea. I have no idea what you're doing at home, but hopefully it's creating some sort of a festival, because a lot of people believe Aiden is the truest thing that ever happened, and a lot of people believe he's a secret narcissist.
Well,
No, he's.
I think you could say, definitely, looking at what happens in this episode and the previous episode, I think he is a latent control. I think he has control issues, because I think the number of times that she made it very clear he pushed.
Listen, I love Aiden.
Yes.
I think Aiden has a flaw, and we are seeing the beginning of the peeling back of the onion of what his stuff is here by him going across a boundary and saying, I know she said don't meet the guy, but I'm going to meet him.
Yeah.
And then Carrie is fit to be tied. And as Lucas was talking about, we get into the genesis of the scene, and he starts competing in a weird way. He pushes and says the smoking.
Yeah.
That's the beginning. And we know that Aiden has a problem with smoking from Sex and the City, but all of a sudden, a pipe is a very easy thing to go after.
What's the deal with the pipe?
What do you mean?
How does someone become a pipe smoker?
That's a reasonable question.
Yeah.
Like, why are you smoking a pipe?
It's a pretentious
It's an
affect.
affectation.
Yeah, but the smell is where when he doubles down is when he's like, but what about the smell? Like, people hate the smell. It's like, then it becomes like not just curious, but
A little
imposing his
aggro.
own values.
But we
onto-
also buy back
He's aggro.
Duncan's pretentiousness with the pipe by saying it's part of his writing process. He's trying to feel the world of that time, and he says it's like a nipple,
Then
and
he
Carrie
chooses
says,
a
"I
sexual.
get that." And
Oh my
Aiden goes,
God.
"You get a nipple?" I mean, come on.
Well, also
Yeah.
you see
a little
Carrie's frustration, her trying to just grit her teeth. The man smokes a pipe, leave it alone. Like, that's when you really
and
see.
then when the marriage thing comes up, and he says, "Do you have any children?" And Duncan says, "No, thank God." This is where Aiden leans in and says, "Well, my children are the most important thing that ever happened
The
to
best
me."
thing that my white
and
ex and I.
cast Carrie.
yeah, that's awkward.
That was so, I hated that.
It's like two flavors that you like, when you have them on their own, they're incredible. You mix them together and you're like, I don't
my God.
like this taste,
Wait, Sam, say more when you said
That's
you
funny.
hated that, like wrapping himself in like paternal pride or something.
Yeah, I mean, the kids, well, the one kid was a big point of contention, and is currently causing him some, not unhappiness, but a little
Oh yeah,
turbulence.
definitely
Pain,
unhappiness.
But is definitely causing Carrie some trouble. And I thought him turning to Carrie and being like, right, isn't that the best thing I
That's
did?
so interesting.
I hated that.
I
Yeah,
just want to
it's
say,
true.
having co-written the episode, I'm actually really glad that you feel that way, like that you hated that, because it just means that he's a person who's flawed, and let's face it, we all get on other people's nerves.
And it's oddly enough, this Carrie is sitting very silently in the scene, and at any point there could have been a voiceover, but I don't think she knows what's going on.
No. She
doesn't-
wants to be
she
anywhere
has no
but there.
overview, and she just decides
She's
to
like,
get
I
out
wish
of this.
I hadn't come outside.
Yeah, I wish
Yeah.
I hadn't come home. I think it's even more. Then she dismisses herself, and John does the funniest thing. As she gets up, he goes for a kiss, and she just keeps
my
walking,
God.
and he's just hung there. And then she goes directly into the Patel group, which is the first time we've seen Seema's new world. And in this scene, she confesses to Seema what's happened. And Seema doesn't understand why he would act like that. And she tells Seema, I cheated on Aiden with her ex-husband, John.
And it feels to have to say that, to confess again, a new friend who you want to think of you as a good person, to have to do that. It was almost like, did you not watch Sex and the City?
But the Seema, like that, having to, I remember being like happy when I realized that she probably hasn't ever told, well, we know she's never told Seema, this kind of newish friend,
There was no need to.
that wound. And it's sort of, not, I wouldn't
her
say fun,
baggage.
but as a writer, kind of exciting to realize that like that stone hasn't been turned over
And then
yet.
she
And then
turned
to
over
say it
another-
is powerful.
Then she
you know?
turns another one over and says, and I also cheated on him with smoking. And Seema basically says, why is he doing this? He's afraid I'm going to cheat on him again. And Seema says, you have to talk to him about this. And then Carrie says something very untypical. She said, no, I'm happy he's finally here. I'm just going to hope it's a blip.
Yeah.
I'm not going to put a big wet blanket over all of this, much like Miranda did in the last episode with, I'm not going to put a big blanket over this alcoholism.
Like what needs to be said and what doesn't
Well,
need to be
and I
said.
think she's really hoping against hope that this is her paranoia, that it's not real, and I don't want to drudge up all that old horrible stuff.
If it is a blip, it's his little blip and he'll get over it. Because, you know, sometimes people work through their stuff, you know?
And they're pretty fragile. You know, when you're in a relationship that's like kind of fragile or long distance, we've talked about this before, I feel like, is like you're so set on like building back the good times and building back a foundation that you don't want to like dig deeper, because there's not the time for the normalcy that a normal relationship in the same place has, that where there's time for good and low. It's like if she digs too deep right now, it feels too fragile.
And the reality is Carrie is also feeling bad about something that happened in the past. She's not saying that that's presently where she is, but this is what I did in the past, and she feels bad about it, but it's in the past. And the reality is you carry wounds with you, but she's not feeling terribly guilty in the present. She feels like she's doing everything exactly right. And
she thinks he's having a moment. She thinks he's having a moment. But she's hoping that his smarter self is going to get him out of that.
And before she left the garden, there is one piece of plot that we have to pick up. She turns to Duncan and says, don't forget, it's my turn to give you notes on your book tonight. And he does a comedy like, I'm nervous.
Yeah,
God help me. So now we're in the moment where we're seeing them work. And that's a cagey moment, because you guys really had to write what his book was, what Carrie's notes would be. And it had to be believable that they're really dissecting these books.
I really wanted to show them mid-work, like you want to believe they've been down there for a while. It's just about the work. Like they're not laughing, they're not. It's the way we work when we're sitting down.
No one has a crush on someone else. It's not it's a sexually charged. Yeah.
It's a notes session.
The room is thick with smoke, which is important, but it's also his ideas, and he's getting hard notes from her, and they're getting very, very micro about the book.
You see him saying where exactly.
And throughout, like before this, I feel like we were so adamant. It just kept coming up of like, and Michael specifically was to be like, pare back anything that's like too making it feel anything but professional for this moment. Because for episode 9 to work, you have to believe that this writing relationship that's defendable and that is objectively she's in the clear about.
She's also in a very, very work, nothing glamour, nothing flouncy outfit. It's really important.
And we talked a lot in building to this sad ending with Carrie and Aiden about we've really built toward this end, that she tried everything. She's human, she's flawed, she wasn't perfect, but she really did try everything. She tried to balance this new professional, maybe flirty something underneath relationship, but we wanted to feel like she could be defended for doing everything she could, and that we didn't want to protect him to have him be so flawless. We wanted to believe that these two people couldn't make it work.
I do think you said that she wasn't perfect, and I'm going to say that I think she was perfect in regards to this time with Aiden. I think she was perfect. I can't think of one mistake she made on her own that would derail this relationship from going forward. And I think it's important because she was imperfect in the past. And in this, she was there for...
She's still human, though.
But
it's like
in
we could
regards
argue...
to the relationship, what did she do that was not perfect?
I mean, you could say she decided to swing by Virginia without talking to him in advance. Like, if you really want to get into it.
That's okay.
But she did talk to him in advance.
No, she didn't.
Knew.
She did.
She had an agenda.
The lunch
she was
planned.
coming.
I know, but she wasn't planning on staying over. I'm just saying, like...
No, but I'm just saying to you're just saying. Seriously, it's like a needle point. With Carrie and this big third run, we were delicately stitching, not the villain, not the villain, not the villain, because we knew that half the audience was waiting for her to break his heart
Fuck up.
again.
Right,
when he
but
came on in
there's-
season 2, they were like, she's going to hurt him again.
Right.
So
but there's not the villain, and then there's like hopefully she's a human.
And we said she's human.
She's
we
not
felt
AI.
things. Well, no one's saying that. We're just saying she didn't make relationship problems in this relationship. She dealt with everything she could as honestly and as truthfully as possible.
And I think as respectfully as possible to his boundaries and his family crisis. I mean,
She took that 5 years news like a champ.
It's true. I mean, and I think what helps just in having this conversation, I'm realizing, I think what helps is maybe what you're saying. It's like the feeling of like, I was perfect. I did everything.
Here
and
it
it's what
comes.
she says, but then there's resentment in there too. I
At
think.
the end.
Yeah.
She says at the end, I gave 100%, 100%. And the fact of the matter is, when you do that, that's perfection. She did it perfectly. And she's been disqualified
wants a
for some
gold
rule
star.
that she didn't know. And
Right. Well, there's only so much she could do is the
I mean,
truth.
I say that she's more than human. I'd say in this Aiden relationship, she's superhuman until the point where she becomes human at the end. She has been phenomenal by design.
well, yeah. I mean,
In regards to him.
Clearly, she's sacrificed more for this relationship, for this stage of the relationship, than she's ever done for another
and it
guy.
still isn't
I mean,
enough, yeah.
and maybe that was the flaw.
I
like
was just
she
going to
was
say, to a fault.
sacrificing
I mean,
herself.
there's going to be someone out there who says, you know, when he comes down and says, oh, I have the
course.
meat, that she could have been like, you know what, Duncan, I'm so sorry.
Sure.
I want to continue. I got to go eat dinner with
or
my guy.
even an hour
She-
hour earlier
and
than she
I
did.
want to add right
Yeah.
there, she already did that once. And that would be a
I
character
know.
assassination. And we don't want Carrie to kill herself just so that audience can think she's 100%.
Of course not. And we
But even
didn't.
when
I
she-
wouldn't have wanted to do that. That's not
But what
interesting.
she
Even when
did
she-
say was perfect. What she did do was perfect. She made it very clear she had to go and work on this book. And Aiden comes down and knocks on the door, and he says that line that Julie doesn't even say his name. He says, "There's your man," and he has
Yeah,
stakes,
ooh.
and it is
By the way,
unbelievably cute and unbelievably tone deaf at the same time.
Yes.
Hey,
Hey, I got steaks. Should I start the broiler? It's almost 8:30.
no, we're working. We never talked about dinner.
Yeah, but you guys got to eat. I mean, I got more than enough food for the three of us.
Aiden, I don't think you get it. It's not that kind of a thing.
No, I get it. It's just you and me then. What time you coming up?
I'm not sure, so you better start without me.
Carrie is doing what she said she was going to do, and he is not taking no for an answer.
I mean, I think at the end of the day, what we were going for was we didn't want either of them to be villains. We wanted them to be ultimately in their own bodies, true to themselves, close
Trying
but
their
not
best.
cigar. Like these two people love each other. And we asked a lot in the writer's room, like, is love enough? Sometimes love isn't enough. And that's a sad reality. But I know that it's true, especially in like blended family
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
When kids are involved, I've heard of people who like actually get married, for the second
torn
time
apart.
and then split up because it doesn't work out
Yeah.
to blend the families. So
And she basically holds her ground and says, I'll be up. And he keeps pushing an hour, 2 hours. She says, well, I'll be up when I'm up. Go ahead and eat. I don't want to eat
oh
alone.
my God, yeah.
He's
that
now
by the
saying, I don't want to eat
door.
alone. And I know for a fact, Sarah Jessica said one of the hardest things she's ever had to do as an actor is quietly, silently close that door on someone so vulnerable. But it was important. And then she
That's
goes
a
back to
boundary
work.
she's setting.
And
Right,
hours
boundaries.
later, she comes upstairs and you see the T-bones.
whatever they were.
Whatever they were. And by the way,
uncooked.
everyone seemed to agree, and I'll be curious what you guys think. like, was that passive aggressive that he left those
Of
meats
course.
out?
Well, I was thinking, like, put those,
100%.
you know, put
Put
those
them in
steaks
the
in the
fridge.
fridge.
She
I was
walked
like,
by
Yeah.
them, and I was like, "Girl, put those away."
I know. That was all I was thinking was that meat is just rotting all night.
Anyway, she goes by the steaks. She feels the negligence of that dinner that never happened. And she goes into the bedroom, still thinking he's the greatest guy in the world, by saying, "Thank you for understanding.
Yes,
You're up."
It was really important to us writing this. I really wanted her to acknowledge how annoying that could have been for him.
To be the other
say-
person.
Yes,
Yeah.
to say, I really appreciate that. Like, thank you
And she
for...
also says something else that's important. I was giving him notes
Yes.
on his book. I
Right.
felt like he's helped me so much I couldn't just leave.
Yeah, which is, she was stuck. She was caught. I hope we over and over again in the writer's room, we kept saying, and then on set, it was like, have we earned this? Like, are we ready to end this? Like, that was the hardest question again and again, because we love them so much as characters and the actors are so good together. I think we kept asking that question, have we earned this?
And I feel like you guys, Elisa and Julie, did such a good job of the volley back and forth of just like, oh, like maybe was she cold to him or was he too much? And then, you know, that the warmth of which she comes in to, like, you know, is like so casual and like kind of a reset button. It should be acceptable, but to be received like that in that scene by him suddenly elevates it and escalates it.
No. Get away from me. You smell like smoke. Come on. Go take a shower.
I remember in the writing room when we pitched the line, "Get away from me."
Yeah,
People were
it was
like, "Oh,
harsh.
half of the people left the room," and no, I'm not doing
Yeah.
that. Get away from me. I was convinced that is a cold shower, and
Yeah.
that needed to be happening. Get
Yeah.
away from me.
Right. To get to the next level, to the actual truth of everything.
and he says, "Go take a shower. Get away from me," and
Well,
she just leaves.
It's honest.
Yeah.
It's how he
Then you
was
see
Honestly,
it.
it's
mad.
also like it's his vulnerability so much so like that in the hours you just picture he was just stewing up there.
But
you
we
know,
Yeah,
just
and
kind of-
imagining who knows what.
But, yeah,
you know?
but we also did give him the out. You smell like smoke.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is his thing.
Trigger.
It's not like
Yeah.
he's just saying, "Get
Yeah.
away from me, I hate you," but we gave him
Well,
a
that's-
little bit of an excuse. "Get away from me, you smell like smoke." Then you see her walking down the hall with wet
Well,
hair.
first you see her sit up, and I felt like in that moment she could have said something, and I felt like her shame, it was
Yes,
so
her
harsh
shame.
that she couldn't even say, like, how dare you say that to her? I mean,
No, she
Mhm.
felt shamed.
Yeah.
He dragged her back into the past. He dragged her into that
Yeah,
moment when
yeah.
she came home and she was wet and she admitted that she's, I mean, literally, there's water around both these shameful moments. Once she got caught in the rain and now she's coming from a shower and she goes into the cat's room and lays down and he comes in thinking everything's good. "What are you doing in here?" And she's like, "You told me to get away, get
Oh my
away."
God.
And then says, "Close the door."
Oh, and that, I just have to say, I'm going to pretend I didn't write this and it was all happening as a surprise on set. But his body, when he leans against the door frame, I felt like I've been there. I've never been in this situation, for the record, but that feeling of like, oh God, no, like now we're going off the deep end. Like, can we walk it back? Can we have a conversation? Like, I felt for him. I totally feel for her, to be clear. But I also felt like, oh God, this night just went from bad to like
Mhm.
possibly unrecoverable.
I know. And then she's alone in the cat room by herself and the camera pushes in on her face and it's like, wow. And then the next moment, he's trying to walk it back, as you said, Julie. He's cooking breakfast. Now, this
Right.
is something
New
that I
day.
would do in a second.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
okay, now bad
New
reset.
day.
Hey, look, I made eggs
Clean
and
slate.
and
Sun is
da-da-da,
up.
and I'm all happy until you find out the other
I
person
love
is still
smoke.
mad. You go, then I'm mad too.
Right.
Like, okay.
Yeah.
Yes,
Right.
that
I
was
mean, like-
the idea, was
Yeah.
like, I'm willing to move on, but then when she's still mad, it's like, okay, in that case, I'm still mad too.
And this is where she brings the truth. And she accuses him of deliberately going out there. And he's, well, it was weird. He was out in the yard. It would have been weird. She goes, no, Aiden, you
Yeah.
deliberately were waiting for him to find out if there's anything going on between us. And he goes, mental. And she says she's going for a walk. And then he says, I'm going for a walk. And she says, oh, I'm going for a walk. Now, anyone who knows Sex and the City is there was another moment when they were in the closet in Sex and the City. And she said, I'm going for a walk. And he says, no, I'm going for a walk. And she says, I'm going for a walk.
It's kind of their thing.
And then he says to her, one of the few times he's ever said the F word to her, then go for a fucking walk.
Yeah, he was mad.
And then she goes for a walk. And where does she go? To Bergdorf's, because she's trying to
Make
jumpstart
herself
who she
feel
is.
Better.
But she's walking around listless because she's not feeling a shoe is going to do it. And then we have a lovely cameo by Andy Cohen. And everybody's like, oh, look, they put Andy Cohen in the show for the first time. No, it is the second time. And it's just a callback from many years ago in Sex and the City. And this time he got a
True
name.
fans know.
Daniel. And we call up Andy and we go, hey, Andy, do you want to do a cameo? He goes, yes, I do. I said, you have to be at Bergdorf's at 5:45 a.m. He says, I'm there.
Oh, my God.
I'm there. I want to be that guy again. And in a scene with Sarah Jessica, which is who he was in the scene with the last time.
Can you remind us of the episode again?
Charlotte wants to volunteer for the blind.
Right,
and in
right.
order
I
to do
remember
it,
that.
they tell her she has to go to a public place and blindfold herself.
Right.
And so they go to the old
right.
Barney's.
Yes.
And she's wandering around and Carrie just decides to go buy shoes. And Charlotte's lost. And it was Barney's. So Daniel, the shoe man salesman, now played by Andy Cohen in both these episodes, moved from Barney's when it closed to Bergdorf's, because that's what happens. People move from one fancy place to another if that's their life's work. But Carrie gets a text about, please meet me at the place we love from Aiden.
And I love that she does not buy shoes in this moment.
Yeah, that was important. She
that
didn't
felt-
actually go to
Yes.
shop. She just was looking.
And
It's a go-to that doesn't
It's
go
like
to
a
anymore.
comfort
You know?
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Like I would go to the grocery store.
Yes.
Look at cereal boxes.
That's Julie's Bergdorf's.
Only true.
On a really bad day, Costco.
So let's talk about this last scene, because what we knew we didn't want to do was the descending scale of breakups where you see them on the street, then you see them back in the apartment, then
Right.
it just keeps going. We wanted a clean break. So we knew this scene, this lunch scene was it. And we also knew we wanted it to happen in public,
Outside. Yeah.
not in private, because it's just more complicated that way, I think.
And we wanted to show him, again, trying to really have each of them trying their hardest. He was the big enough person to reach out. And you see, the minute he says, hi, I felt like he sounded different. And I think he was sort of going a little bit with his hat in his hand. I thought about what you said. You really could believe, we're going to be okay. That's how if I'm Carrie or Aiden, both of them, I felt like in that moment, okay, we are grown-ups.
Yeah.
We're going to get through this.
Like they had both had time to sort of work through their side of things. I think they were both kind of ready to talk it
down.
out.
Well, he even starts going, we were both hungry.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
he's
Didn't help
ready
that
to.
we were hungry.
Yeah.
And then she goes,
Oh
wait,
my
wait. Now,
God.
this is interesting that the breakup comes to Carrie Bradshaw's head because of a choice of words.
Yes.
And that's interesting. As a writer, she's hyper aware of how people use words.
And I remember in the writer's room, because as we're coming up with, the way things are going to happen in scenes, we'll sometimes, as we're talking and pitching and thinking, we're kind of giving dialogue. And I remember sort of the natural progression of this accidental slip of the past tense versus the present tense, and just stumbling upon that little landmine.
To be specific, what we're
Carrie
talking
Bradshaw.
about, he thinks he's giving the big grand gesture. He says, I have a problem when it comes to you and other men. And Carrie says, you said have. It should have been had. And then he feels very belligerent
Sorry, I'm
about
not a
words.
writer.
Yeah.
It's one of
It's a
those
slip of the
conversations. Why I
tongue.
love the scene is that there is if there's a lot of parallel universes, there's a total world where they have this little lunch and they say the right things to each other and they continue on, and then it kicks down a few months or something
Yeah,
else,
that's
or maybe they
true.
last forever. And sometimes it's just the right combination of someone saying the wrong thing and then someone not willing to fold and
Yeah.
both people being right or feeling they're right.
Yeah.
And it's explosive, but the same lunch could have been peaceful. And that's what I think is so interesting and kind of fresh about it. It's not one person's right or wrong. It's like two different things escalating and two different shapes not aligning.
And you know,
I
when
love that she didn't get subsumed by guilt, because in the Seema conversation, you see she's like, oh, I cheated on him with John, you know, and she very easily could have responded, you're right, I understand why you'll never trust me. But instead she's like, no, brother, that was so long ago. You should be over it.
Yeah. Like
Look
she
at
worked
everything
through
I'm
it.
sacrificing for
Actually,
you.
she's
I
not even
really
saying-
loved
She's
that
actually
she
not
didn't succumb
saying
to
you
that.
should be anything. She's saying I need to get the dues for what I've been doing, which is I am blameless. This is not current. This is old news. And when he
Also, if
starts
I-
going petty and calling him Sherlock Holmes and she's just like, do you hear how petty you sound? That's the thing. He, as in Lucas's theory, that he could have said, okay, let me take a breath.
Yeah.
Let me think about it. You're right.
You're right.
But instead he goes, well, can you blame me?
Right.
Sherlock Holmes and you. And she's
Right.
like, do you hear yourself? How petty and jealous.
I mean, I think this is, you know, really both of them ready to be completely honest. Maybe for the first time,
Out of their hands on
you
this.
know, in this chapter. I
would
hate to say
posture that she's trying to avoid it by leaving. She says instead of having the conversation, she gets up and walks away, and he chases her. Once again, if maybe he hadn't chased her, he wouldn't have heard her wheel around and say, how dare you?
You think that
Yeah,
they could
she
have
was-
met up at home and had a
Maybe.
maybe calmer thing?
It's all choices. Oh, unfortunately, he thinks he's going to make it okay by chasing her. And just the fact that he's there again, she's trying to get away and he stops her and hears,
It's
how
almost like,
dare you?
Yeah.
it's almost like she knew she was about to explode, and that was her only defense. Yeah.
And then he chases her thinking it's going to be like, hey, Carrie,
Like,
come on,
we
we'll just
have
talk.
to work
They're
through
in different
this.
places. Literally,
I really
they're in
wonder,
different
like,
places.
it's interesting because I wonder if in her mind she was already in that how dare, like if she had gotten home, if
I think
she would have said like,
yeah. I think
I'm
the
done with you.
resentment,
You know,
well,
like
it's
if
what we were
anything-
I
talking
don't know.
about.
I will
yeah,
never
it's
know.
interesting. We'll never
I mean,
know.
the
but-
fact of the matter is, would she be willing to go to another level of sacrifice to forgive him? Would
Right.
she realize I'm hot-headed, he's hot-headed?
Right.
But she doesn't have that chance. She wheels on him, and now she is giving the declaration of Carrie's independence. I've given you everything. And Sarah Jessica is on fire in this episode. She basically wants to tear her dress
Yeah.
off. She can't
That's just holding
contain
that dress
herself.
and yeah.
Yeah.
And it is full on. I've done everything. And then she mentions the thing. And I'm sorry, but there's the whole family, which is
Yeah.
finally
The
the thing.
gloves are
She's
off.
like, I'm
Right.
sorry,
At
but
the bottom
there
of
is.
everything. Yeah.
And then she
Well, because
slips.
she's been the bigger person for
Yeah.
so long, and then when it's like, you know, she says it's just not enough. Like everything is not enough. It's such an interesting thing, and it's so. I feel like for the audience, even though it's complicated and everything, it is completely gratified. Like we've been on this journey with her to know that
Hopefully.
we've had enough too.
And the other thing that happens in this scene is she now makes a grammar slip.
Right.
She
I
says,
was 100%.
I was 100% in. And then and this is the point, I think, Elisa, where she realizes I'm out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
well, she
before this
doubles
moment,
down.
she didn't.
Yeah, I think she doesn't correct the verb.
Yeah.
And I also want to point out, in the entire history of Sex and the City, Carrie Bradshaw, the movies, everything, she has never said, I need 100%.
Right. Well, and
Until
I realized
now.
him saying that was really throwing down the gauntlet. And it's one thing for him to say, well, I need 100%, for her to be like, sorry, I can't give it to you. But it's like, so do I.
Now, that is the
A new
moment where you
idea.
realize they both need 100%. I mean, she got she was started with 30% from Big, then worked up to 70, then actually got maybe 90. And all these guys have never given her 100%. She's had to live with that. And now, for the first time, Carrie Bradshaw, after everything she's done, is saying, I need 100%. It's a fully realized person saying, I'm it.
It'll be I'll be very interested to hear how people receive this.
And if you've been a couple that has gotten into a fight or a breakup in public, just that moment of being like, I can't believe we're doing this here, but we're doing it here. And it's like the whole world tunes out in the busiest city in the world, but it's adds levels.
When I told John Corbett what was going to happen, he actually said to me on the phone, I'm sad. I thought they were going to make it this time. And I was like, oh my God, that has to go in the show. And so I put it right in the show. I'm sad. I thought we were going to make it this time. And she says, I'm sad too. So in spite of the split, they come together and he holds her. She steps to him, by the way. He doesn't step to her.
That was important. We had a version where it ended very hot. And I'm really glad we didn't go with that.
Because
like you needed to see
the hot
them.
version, we were then going to do another scene where
Right,
blah, blah,
at
blah, where you
home.
see him leaving, but we've already seen him leave her twice. So it had to end here, and we got a big help from Taylor Swift's song, How Did It End Here? Because it just sort of gives you the breathing room of saying, look what happens now. And you see her pulling down the postcards that were so optimistic and fun in the first episode and now are like tombstones. And you see the empty closet, and then you see her and the cat. And then you see, of course, on Sex and the City, and just like that, her walking down the street post breakup, looking amazing. And she goes into a glamorous bar and she meets her girlfriends and they have a conversation.
Yeah, because we really thought,
that.
What would Carrie Bradshaw do? What do we want to see Carrie? What's,
I think she
our
wouldn't
last
wanna be
image for the
alone.
episode?
We wanted to send her to her friends.
She's going to keep going. She's going to
Pick
keep
herself
relying
up.
on her, family.
friends.
You don't want to necessarily hear the conversation of the girls. You just want to see, because there's been so much, and it kind of like is nicely for the audience to kind of soak over them versus to dissect it.
Right.
Literally.
No. It's a time for emotions. It's time for feeling. It's not time for words. And as we end our long-lived, long-term relationship with Carrie and Aiden, we get a little bit deeper in our newest relationship, which is Miranda and Joy. And as we set up in the last episode, that Joy had left liquor at Miranda's apartment, and she doesn't know that Miranda threw it out. So this is the moment. And the reason we did the whole liquor story, aside from exploring the alcoholism, we wanted to go deeper with Miranda and Joy because we've been so clever and so, in quotes, clever and bon vivant on top of
banter,
adorable.
Doggy.
We wanted to show a flaw in Joy. Like, who is she? And so Miranda risks saying the unsexy thing.
I threw the bottle down the trash chute because I was afraid to have it in the house.
What I'm hearing is my gin is gone.
Yes, and it probably shouldn't be here again. I'm not just someone who rarely drinks or who just stopped drinking. I can't drink. I'm an alcoholic.
Bringing the relationship to the next level.
Yeah. Do you think she knew in advance whether or not Joy brought up the "where's my gin" that she was going to have this conversation?
No. I think it's when she hears herself lie. And when she lies to Joy and says, oh, my cleaning lady, I think there she feels a little bit like, well, this is a bad thing.
This is now gross.
Now I'm, she said about the real estate role.
Yeah, there's two roads in front of you.
I think the minute she hears herself lie, she goes, this relationship's, I'm not going to start lying in it. And she has to risk it because she's lied a lot in her life to people to keep them happy. So they sit down and Joy says, this is complicated.
Right. Well, first she makes sort of a joke. What I'm hearing is my gin is gone. That gin is hard to get in the U.S. I can vouch for that. But that Miranda is ready to, we felt like she needed to do that both for herself and for the relationship, to admit, like, this isn't sexy or fun. I do have an alcohol problem, and it's almost the more important thing is I'm saying that to you, more important than the fact itself, is we haven't.
Yeah.
It's not sexy.
And,
or fun.
the idea that Joy does make a joke and she says, sometimes I don't like myself and I need a drink. That's a revelation.
Yeah.
That's what makes me, I don't like to feel bad about myself. But then she says, well, look, I guess I did bring, because she made a joke in the other episode about, I'm what's in the bag? I brought my emotional baggage.
Mm-hmm.
She says, I guess I did bring my emotional baggage. And Miranda says very beautifully, I have room. And she says, I may have some trunks as well.
I mean, we had long talks trying to figure out and like zero in on what Joy's flaw was, or what it could be, because frankly, I think I speak for all of us, like Dolly Wells seems like pretty close to perfect. And
Speaking
like
of
they're
Well, it's a new crush with Dolly.
You know, yeah, I think
we're
we
still
all
in
had
the
the
early
crush on her, and it was like, what on earth, could be her issue, or one of them.
And we learn in future episodes a couple of more things that she doesn't like about herself. But right now it's just the drinking, and it ends very sweetly with them being honest with each other. I feel like they move forward. And Cynthia's performance feels so magnanimous and grown up and present. And that's really thrilling for a relationship with her.
Yeah. Back in the dark ages when I was a dater, I remember feeling like there was a moment in an early relationship where it was like fun, and then something real entered the picture and it was game over. And I realized like, oh, there's a moment, there's a turning point of vulnerability that like the other person can take it or they can't. And it was fun to kind of like find that for these two.
And just like that, we've reached the end of episode 9 of season 3. Thanks so much to Julie, Elisa, Samantha, and Lucas for joining. As always, it's a delight to be around you. We'll be back next week to discuss episode 10, Better Than Sex. And as ever, you can stream new episodes of And Just Like That Thursdays on Max. And Just Like That, The Writer's Room is produced by Sony Music Podcasts for Max. At Sony, Sharon Morris is the executive producer, Gianna Palmer is the lead producer, Sammy Allison is head of production. Tamika Balance-Kalasny is our production manager, and Sam Baer is our engineer. Special thanks to Becky Rowe, Allison Cohen-Sorokach, Kenya Reyes, and Aaron Kelly from the Max Podcast team. Thank you for listening.